Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. I'm Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. He's at home in Connecticut. I'm in a hotel in New York City for CBS Sports Network. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably can notice both of those things. Please smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and knock that out while you're here. Let's get into it. Obviously, we don't typically do shows on Thursday nights, and we might not do another show on a Thursday night until the NCAA tournament, but I've been in New York all week for CBS Sports Network doing studio work and guest hosting Time to Shine. I'm flying home Friday morning, so we thank God I don't have a Southwest flight. Woo, boy.
Well, you know what? Because my wife obviously isn't accustomed to me hopping up and doing a pod at this hour on a Thursday, and it's also a really light slate of college games right now. Providence is destroying Butler, but on this Southwest note, it's obviously a disaster. And I will only presume, although I hope this isn't the case, but I think the odds might favor that we do have listeners who are traveling, have been traveling with Southwest. That's obviously an absolute travel disaster. And so when I mentioned to my wife, I was like, yeah, we're going to do this pod at 7:30 Eastern Thursday. GP's got to fly early Friday morning. So we're going to get the preview stuff and podcast out of the way. And she goes, is he flying Friday morning? Is that happening? I was like, he got there, and I don't think he flew Southwest. So,
No.
Knock on wood, you have had some, because of how often you do wind up flying, you had some interesting stories over the years. But if anyone has listened to the pod, frankly, find us and let us know, and we hope that we've helped you a little bit. But it seems like one of the larger airline disasters that I can remember in our country, and I can only be grateful that I've actually never flown Southwest period in my life, because I'm in the Northeast. There's not really a hub for it up here, so whenever I'm flying out of New York, not that you can't, but there's always just other airlines that I choose. So genuinely, my thoughts are with anyone that might have been caught up in this or any other weather-related stuff over the past few days.
Yeah, I saw one story today where a guy was on the list for a heart transplant. They got the heart, and it was like, but you got to get here, and he couldn't get there. So he did not get the heart transplant.
This is not.
They gave the.
Are you kidding me?
That's a real story. Yeah, no, I read it's a real story. I mean, I don't know the names and the places, but it's a real story that I read within the past couple of hours. So just like it's inconvenient for some people, for lots of people, it is perhaps like life-threatening for others. So yeah, thoughts are with you if you've been dealing with that or any other issue as 2022 winds down. But fingers crossed. I'm Team Delta. I mean, look at me, Norlander. Look at my eyes. You're looking at a 1,000,000-miler Team Delta. All right. I've got the plaque and everything to prove it. And really, all it proves is that you're not at home enough. That's all it proves. It just proves you're not.
We're going to send you a plaque to remind you of how bad of a father you are.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. That's all it is. It's like
you're never there for your children. Here, why don't you hang this on your wall?
Hey, congratulations, Gary Parrish. You're never at home. Yeah. So, but hopefully I'll be home tomorrow. Fingers crossed. So all that said, that is why we decided to knock this out tonight. And I suppose the proper thing to do is start with Kentucky, because the Wildcats are now 8-4 following an 89-75 loss at Missouri. This after being ranked number 1 in the preseason at KenPom and in the top 5 of all relevant human rankings. Even more troubling than that is that UK is 0-4 against top 45 KenPom teams. The Wildcats will enter January with 0 quadrant 1 victories. Deadleg, is it fair to be super concerned about John Calipari's team already, or is it too early for UK fans to be freaking out?
Too early. And don't worry, Mizzou. We're getting to you. Mizzou fans, we're getting to your Tigers. That's going to happen. Too early? Dude, they're way past this stage. Not a chance. The Kentucky fans are so I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today. 8-4, the best win is over Michigan, which didn't even happen. Not even like in Eastern time zone. It didn't happen in this country. They had to fly across the Atlantic Ocean to get a halfway decent win. The second best win is against Yale, and that game was closer than Kentucky fans wanted it to be.
They have no good wins. They have no good wins in the United States.
That's correct. None. There isn't a good win in this country yet. They will exit 2022 and the first third of this season without a viable win on United States soil, and that's a major problem. They're going to play, and we'll get to this later. They are hosting Louisville on Saturday, so they have one more win likely coming. on American soil, but that is obviously not a quality win there. And man, oh man, with each game passing, the fan base is getting more and more fed up. Now, if you really step back and go 10,000 foot view on this whole thing, you can look at what Kentucky was in the first half of John Calipari's career there versus what it's been since. Like our buddy Jeff Eisenberg did have a nice tweet. I say nice in terms of it was just a reminder of really where this program was at one point. It was 38-0, getting ready to play Wisconsin in the 2015 Final Four, 2 wins away from outright immortality, right? And they get upended by Decker and Kaminsky, Josh Gosser and that crew. And since then, Kentucky hasn't made it back to a Final Four, has had good seasons and had, a couple of 2 seeds in there, 4 seed in there, all that, but made the Elite Eight in 17 when Luke May knocked him out of that regional final there. But they haven't made it back to a Final Four. And up till that point, from 2009, 2010 to 2015, I mean, Kentucky was, even though it only had 1 national championship, it was the best program in the sport in that stretch there. The other way that you can also look at this, though, is because either in my mentions or just seeing other commentary elsewhere, Kentucky's got an amazing recruit. Now, this is practically an annual thing. I get this. It has another amazing recruiting class coming in. But from what I gather from UK fans, and if there are any watching now or after the fact on YouTube, feel free to confirm or deny this. But it feels like the class coming in with Dillingham and Wagner and company, that is regarded as like, a top 4 or 5 class that Cal has had, which is saying something given how strong the classes are almost every single season. And so while they don't want to be in this spot, they want to be the preseason top 5 team. They want to be the national championship contender. It's almost like we got to put up with this one more year. And then like next group, it better be the group. Like we better be a top 10 team wire to wire with this amount of talent coming in, or else, I don't know. He's on a lifetime contract. It's just not, it is not a good situation. Has some these are not direct parallels, but I couldn't help but also think, after the noise of the offseason that was made with headlines with Calipari and having a public spat, this one being with the football coach, so to speak, it wasn't like direct, and them really disappointing the fan base. There was another instance of this in college football with Jimbo Fisher getting public with a spat with Nick Saban, and then A&M, a very trendy preseason top 10 team, absolutely went into the tank. I don't think, relatively speaking, Kentucky's going to be that, but I will tell you this right now. Going into 23, Parrish, not a quad 1 win to be found on that resume. If we started the tournament now, which we're not, thankfully, would not be a tournament team. I think it will get there, but a lot of work to do. And as we talked about this after the CBS Sports Classic, like, where is your room for optimism if you're a Kentucky fan? You're hoping that you're going to be able to peel off at least 10 wins in league play. I assume you're going to get there, but Cal has not figured out this team, doesn't know what lineups to use. And in many ways, like Missouri just blew them off the floor. It was not even competitive. And credit to Missouri. We'll get to you in a second. But yeah, this situation is not improving in any way. And I don't even think like a 40-point win over Louisville, if that even happens, I don't think that does anything. It's about what you're going to be able to do in SEC play and actually playing against top 25 competition, winning against those teams to restore any kind of faith in the fan base.
I'm with you. There's really nothing they can do this weekend against Louisville to make Kentucky fans go, okay, now here we go, because like everybody, smashes Louisville. They're just really, 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 really bad. So it's going to be a weird scene this weekend in that typically tremendous rivalry game, because Louisville is as bad as it's ever been, and Kentucky is as disappointing as any highly ranked preseason team in the country. As I wrote on Thursday morning, John entered this season under as much pressure as he's ever faced from his own fan base. And it's not necessarily job pressure, because they owe him like so much money, even if they wanted to fire him, unless they could do it for cause for some reason. It's not, I guess anything's possible, but it's certainly not practical or ideal. The reason he entered with so much pressure this season is it's a few different reasons. A, because they lost to St. Peter's in the first round of the NCAA tournament last season. B, because the season before that, it was the worst Kentucky men's basketball season in modern history. C, because he still hasn't been to a Final Four since 2015, and D, because he's still stuck. And I know it sounds crazy sometimes to say, and he's still stuck on one national title. Like, Tom Izzo is still stuck on one national title. But when you enroll the type of recruiting classes consistently that John has had, you probably should at this point have more than one national title. And he still only has 1 through 13 years. And at this point, it's looking like it's going to be 1 through 14 years. I don't think it helps him that in that same time frame he's been at UK, Jay Wright won 2, and Bill Self, just won his second. I know the first came actually against John when he was at Memphis, so before John got to Kentucky, but still, Bill Self is operating at Kansas with multiple national titles. John Calipari still stuck on 1 when he arguably had the best team in 2010, 2012, and 2015, and then was a favorite in another national championship game. So that's the baseline for where we were. And now through 12 games, like that criticism has progressively only gotten worse. And I'm not going to, we should have learned our lesson last season with North Carolina, start writing obituaries yet for this team or for John's tenure at Kentucky, but it's obviously not good. There was a time when if you criticize John Calipari with a tweet, on a podcast, with a column, you would have a swarm of Kentucky fans coming at you. And I promise you, there is not a Kentucky fan who is listening to this right now and hearing what I'm saying and you're saying who disagrees with us. And that's where you really get a problem. When your fans are agreeing with your critics and your fans have become your most intense critics, it's not impossible to bounce back from, but ask anybody. It's hard. It's very hard.
There are some Kentucky fans who are ready. They are ready. They are ready to move on. And this is
like if you put a poll
I'm not even
up
saying,
now.
Yeah, I'm not even saying this is like unreasonable fan. I'm talking like a healthy portion of the fan base seems ready to say, acknowledge what's happened there. To that, I might say careful what you wish for. It all depends on who eventually succeeds Calipari whenever that happens. But they are so. And what's funny is when we talk about these topics, like I very much understand if you are a fan of most other programs, right? You're like, I couldn't give a crap. This is Kentucky. This is one of the best programs ever. I could not give a crap if that fan base is done with however John Calipari is coaching the program. Come join the rest of the universe. So I hear you if that's where you're coming from, but I'm just trying to shed a little bit of light on really what's, a top 2 program in terms of eyeballs, polarization, popularity. I mean, Kentucky's fan base is huge. And when it's this bad, yes, it is. It is a story. And Kentucky is a bad team right now. It is bad. That was unwatchable basketball against Missouri. I was excited. Wednesday night was an awesome slate worth of games, right? And I was particularly intrigued because I wanted to see if Missouri was going to be able to show up and really go face-to-face with the Kentucky team that I knew was slipping. And like, GP, 6 minutes into the game, it was – I wouldn't have taken 3,000 to the bank and laid it down for sure. But like 6 minutes into that game, I'm like, Kentucky's not winning this. And it was never close. It was never compelling. It wasn't compelling whatsoever. Again, Mizzou, credit to you. You've done a great job against an Illinois team that's kind of wobbly, against a Kentucky team that's flopping like a fish right now. But credit to what you've been able to do. For UK fans that want to get rid of Cal, I'm still not ready to have that conversation because I just don't think it's based in reality right now, particularly what I mentioned before with the class that's coming in. We're not heading toward that. But it doesn't stop the fact that there is a vocal, and I will say relatively rational portion of the base that is ready to separate, that is ready to move on. To that, I would say you're going to have to sit tight because I don't see that in the near future.
Yeah, there are reasonable Kentucky fans who, if you told them, you realize all you got to do, snap your fingers and he's gone, they would snap their fingers. And I don't know that we've ever been there with John Calipari, not only at Kentucky, but literally any college job he's had. At UMass, there was never a moment where they wanted to get rid of him, obviously. Nobody even pays attention until he's good. And when he got good, he got great. And then, of course, he bounces to the NBA. I guess some Nets fans wanted to get rid of him. But by the time he comes back to college, you can go look. People, I think, often forget this because of how unbelievable those last years of John Calipari at Memphis were, but the first 5 were pretty not so great. But still, like, Memphis fans believed this guy's probably the best we can do. Let's just ride it out. There was some criticism, but not a deal where if you could snap your fingers, you would do it to make a coaching change. And now here we are reaching that point in what I believe is year 14 at Kentucky. And as I noted in the lead to the top 25 and 1 on Thursday morning, this man's been a head coach in college now. It goes back more than 3 decades, and this is all new to him. And so, listen, the recruiting class is on the way. And honestly, you could probably give that recruiting class to just about anybody and they'll do well with it. But I think, and I don't want to speak for Kentucky fans, but I get the sense at least that they're tired of falling back on, well, just wait till next season when this next group of super talented guys gets here, because that was the story 2 years ago. Didn't go well. On some level, it was the story this year, not going well. And they've reached the point, at least in some ways, where they're tired of getting the great recruits, the great rosters, and then not doing great things with it. And I understand. I don't think it's unreasonable if you're a Kentucky fan who is frustrated, if not, flat disgusted at this point.
All right, little love to Mizzou here. Kobe Brown is becoming one of the better seniors in the country. He had 31 against Illinois, 6 days off, celebrate Christmas, come back at Kentucky, drop 30. Back-to-back 30-point games, big time. The wins over Illinois and Kentucky mark the first time in the regular season. Now, Kentucky and Illinois are not top 25 teams, but at the time of the games, both teams were ranked. It's the first time since 01-02. Shouts to Quinn Snyder. Shouts to Quinn freaking Snyder. Last time Missouri won back-to-back games in the regular season against ranked competition 20 years ago. Pretty outrageous there. And for a Missouri fan base, right, just like we were talking about with Kentucky, you have been going through it for so long. And, we have a few comments here in the chat, and we appreciate that. No doubt that people listening, you've been waiting just to hear good things about your program. Will Missouri be in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. If you made me pick right now, I'm saying yes. Did I have at the start of the season? No. Did Parrish? No. Did most people? No. It was Dennis Gates in year 1 at a program that he was trying to give any kind of reason for optimism after they just could not really establish anything strong under Konza Martin. They had the 1 year with Porter Jr. He played like 3 games, wasted year. We hear you, Mizzou fans. You've just been aching and aching and aching. This is only Missouri's 3rd win against Kentucky since it joined the SEC like a decade ago. So you haven't even had a lot of opportunities to get big-time wins against high-profile intra-conference competition. Kobe Brown has been tremendous, and to this point, got to give it up to Gates. I think it is worked out almost perfectly for him in that scheduled light for the most part in non-con, which I said in the previous pod, I wrote it in my power rankings. Missouri, I put you in the power rankings. Got to do it. 1 loss, what you've done, you deserve. You're one of the hotter teams as of late. You absolutely deserve that. I have no problem with a coach, particularly in his first season, sometimes even in year 2. If you want to go light, I get it. It might wind up backfiring if you take 1 too many losses and you want to get in the tournament. You say, wait a minute. Well, that's the risk you take. But I think at the risk of trying to get victories, increase morale, it's totally worth it. But Kobe Brown has been tremendous. And if you are curious, yes, he is named after Kobe. I did a story. Wow, we're coming up on, man, we are really coming up on almost 3 years since Kobe Bryant passed. After that happened, I did a story on a number of players in college at that point who were named Kobe. In fact, were named after Kobe, or they wore 24 because of Kobe. And Kobe Brown rocking number 24. So he's been in college for a while, and he was tremendous against Kentucky on Wednesday night. And that is just a big time win for a Missouri program that 12-1. It's got to play Arkansas in a week. It doesn't have a game this weekend, so it gets to kind of collect itself before it's got to go on the road. 3 of its next 4 are on the road. Missouri is going to take a loss or 2 here. If that's just going to happen in the next couple of weeks. But to this point, 2nd-ranked offense in the country per possession, according to Ken Palm. There, really good down low. Good on you, Mizzou. I would lean you're going to get in, but for me, it's like a 55-45 at this point. You've got. You got 17 more regular season league games to go, plus the conference tournament there. There's a lot of work to be done. You're in a better position than, say, LSU, another 12-1 team that had an even weaker non-conference overall standing and got its first quad 1 win of the year on Wednesday night. But credit to Dennis Gates, who has I talked to Dennis on the road in July. I saw him in Chicago at the Under Armour event, and we talked for, I don't know, about 10 minutes or so, and went over just the details of how we wound up getting the job and building the staff and expectations. And it was like a lot of just casual surface level stuff. But just tell you what, like Dennis Gates, not a lot of people really know him too well. Former longtime assistant at Florida State, relatively quiet guy, I think, for the most part. But he told me something along the lines of, I promise you, people are going to, think we're going to win. I don't know. He might have said, like, people think we're going to win like 12, 13 games. I promise you it's not going to be close to that. Like, we are going to have a team there. Obviously, a lot of coaches believe that. Coming through on that, it's another deal altogether. Mizzou is sitting pretty heading into 2023. Again, next game isn't coming until next Wednesday, and that'll be a steep climb against Arkansas on the road.
I'm not just leaning Missouri in the tournament. I'm jumping that direction. I think they're going to be there. Like I wrote on Thursday morning, I think Missouri's good, and it looks like Dennis Gates is great. And this isn't just like a one-off thing. He just won back-to-back Horizon League titles
at an extremely difficult job, Cleveland State.
Right.
Most guys that are even like at other mids, that if they're even offered, they don't want that job. That's not a good job. So that should also be known.
Most college basketball fans don't pay attention to anything below the power conference level, unless it's like an NBA prospect there or somebody's undefeated deep into the season. It just sort of it all happens off of most people's radar. But I am, for the most part, usually a believer in somebody who is consistently great at the mid-major or low-major level. Like, because in those leagues, typically, you don't have incredible talent advantages over everybody else. Like, where you could get that traditionally, historically, is at the power conference level. Like, you're at Kentucky, you can go get better players than everybody else. You're at Duke, you can go get better players than everybody else in your league, for the most part. At Cleveland State, you're not getting better players than everybody else in your league. You're just getting the guys that you get, and they're a lot like the guys other Horizon League teams get. And then it's like, who can develop them, who can coach them. And for Dennis, I know it's a small sample size, but to win, back-to-back league titles in year 2 and year 3 at Cleveland State, I think that says something about him. Same thing with Chris Jans at New Mexico State. It's like, it really lines up similarly. These are guys who prove themselves to be consistently high-level guys at a certain level of the sport, and then they bounce to the high major level, and they're making an immediate impact. Most impressive about all of this at Mizzou is that you mentioned they're 12-1 right now. They won 12 games last season. Missouri did all season, 12 games. Dennis Gates got 12 wins before we even hit January. And this is his team. This isn't one of those deals where, he inherited Kobe Brown, but like he inherited, 3 starters from the previous staff, or 7 of the top 8 scorers at Missouri right now were not at Missouri last season. 7 of the top 8. And when you combine that with what Matt McMahon is doing at LSU, what Jerome Tang seems to be doing at Kansas State, this is why nobody wants to hear anybody's excuses anymore about it takes time. There has literally never been a better time to take a bad job or take over a bad situation in the history of college basketball. Why? Because of the one-time transfer waiver and because of name, image, and likeness. You can now take a job. Like when in years past, like Indiana was a disaster after Kelvin was forced to resign. Kelvin Sampson, of course. And Tom Crean takes that over, and it's like there's no players there. And there's really no way to get players. Because if you get a transfer, they got to sit out a year, and all the high school players are signed, and it's just sort of, that's going to be a process, it. Now there doesn't have to be a process. TJ Otzelberger did it at Iowa State last season, took over a bad situation, got loaded up in the transfer portal, and created a quality basketball team. And that is what Dennis Gates has done at Missouri. It is really impressive stuff. And if you're a Mizzou fan, you should be genuinely excited, because it appears you've got a guy who knows how to win at a high level, but more than that, understands how to build quickly and reload in this current place that college basketball is operating in. So I moved Missouri into the top 20, not just into the top 25-1, but into the top 20 of the top 25-1, because they're sitting here with 2 massive wins and the lone losses to Kansas. And that was lopsided. But that just makes me think more Kansas than it makes me think anything about Missouri. And when you're sitting here 12-1, lone loss to a top 5 Kansas team, and you got wins over Kentucky and Illinois, somewhere in the top 20 is probably where you belong. Kentucky, if it's not obvious to everybody, I moved the Wildcats completely out of the top 25-1. They are down to 40th in the net. There have been a few other notable results since we last podcasted. We're going to touch on some of those next, but first, a word from our partners.
Sunday, an NFL on CBS doubleheader begins with squads making their final playoff push. Then, all eyes on Lambeau when Cousins and the Vikings square off against Rodgers and the resurgent Packers. All hail Sunday. The NFL is on CBS.
So Missouri over Kentucky wasn't the only notable midweek result. We also had UConn improving to 14-0 with a 74-66 win over Villanova. Alabama won 78-67 at Mississippi State. Arkansas lost 60-57 at LSU. New Mexico improved to 13-0 with an 88-69 win over Colorado State. Any thoughts on any of those results or anything else that happened since we were last sitting here staring at each other in a computer?
Let's save New Mexico and UConn thoughts for, and I guess Xavier thoughts too. Let's save that for Final Four and 1. Alabama getting the win at Mississippi State. Brandon Miller went for 19 and 11. Mark Sears had a game high 20. 78 points was 12 more than Mississippi State had allowed all season. Again, as you mentioned before, that's a first-year coach situation there with the Bulldogs. Because Kentucky isn't as good as we're expected, and now you've got Missouri, LSU, Mississippi State, for the most part, has been better than expected. The SEC is just developing into, I had this in my power rankings as well in one of the team capsules there. It is going to be giving us, if not must watch, like just intriguing games, like at least 3 a week for the rest of the season. Because think about it, Tennessee, Bama, Auburn, we'll see. I mean, Auburn is ranked top 25 in most predictive metrics, and it's 11-2, so it's still like it's a ranked team. Like it's still there. Missouri, LSU, even like teams that like Georgia. I don't know how good Georgia is or isn't, but it doesn't have a bad record. Mike White's got them at 10-3. They'll probably finish bottom 4 in the conference, probably, but they're still intriguing. And then you've got Arkansas, Kentucky's always worth watching. Mississippi State only has 2 losses. Some of this is trade-off, though. Like Florida was not expected to be 7-6, and they're having some struggles in first season under Todd Golden there. But for Bama to get the win, 4th one over a ranked opponent, 2nd one true road win over a ranked opponent. I think Bama's got 3 road wins and 5 or 6 combined road neutrals. Bama's actually, and we mentioned this a few weeks back, so we're not surprising our every episode listeners there. But while Tennessee is going to be in the mix to win the league, and who knows who else, right now it's looking like Tennessee, Bama, Arkansas. Again, we got to see it with Kentucky. It's not unthinkable, but there's just no evidence there. Alabama could mess around and wind up with the best resume in the conference because of what it did in non-conference there. So that one was the most notable to me on Wednesday. Again, because of the Christmas break, very little earlier in the week. Wednesday was really the one that was populated with a lot of stuff there. And so it was a good win, and a good win for Bama, a good win for LSU. Just got to see more. I mean, Arkansas did not have Nick Smith Jr. We don't know when he's going to return. That was the first quad 1 win for LSU. 3-point win, really a rough game, but a good one. You'll take any kind of win, however you can get it, particularly if you're LSU. Another, Matt McMahon had to flip that entire, like there was one point where they did not have a player on the team. He got the job, and then a week later, like everyone had either left for good or was in the transfer portal. And so for them to be where they are right now is big time stuff there for Matt McMahon. So I guess the SEC, beyond the other stuff that we'll get to in the Final Four and 1, that was the stuff that stood out to me.
Yeah. Listen, when you, and I actually talked about this on Time to Shine earlier, because we did like a C block of college basketball recapping Wednesday night. And I know LSU hasn't beaten anybody other than Arkansas. And when they beat Arkansas was shorthanded. Like, I got it.
First top 80 win on the schedule, just so people realize they had not been the top 80 team until last night. Yep.
But what that also means is they haven't lost to a bad team, and not many teams in the country are a really bad team, and not a lot of good teams have lost to bad teams. Beyond that, who cares? I mean, like you pointed out, there was a moment in time this offseason where Matt McMahon had 0 players. 0.
He was the John Travolta Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, like if you would have called Matt, there was a moment this summer where you could have called Matt, maybe closer to the spring, but you could have
Right.
called Matt and said, so who you think starting at point guard for you? I don't know who's starting. I don't know who's starting. I don't know. I don't have a player. I mean, I can't overstate that. I hope people understand. There were 0 scholarship players enrolled. 0. And he did enough to get this thing to a place where they've gotten off to a nice start, relatively speaking. You don't have to apologize for your strength of schedule when that is your situation. As for Arkansas, I had a few Arkansas fans notice I dropped the Hogs from 9th all the way down to 20th at CBS at CBSSports.com in the top 25-1. And the explanation for that, I know that because the comment, which is totally sensible unless you understand what I'm doing, the comment, the most prevalent comment was, so they lose a road game to a conference opponent by 1 possession and you drop them 11 spots. Like, I get that in a vacuum. My explanation would be Arkansas's top 10 ranking was tied to a roster that no longer exists. That's how Arkansas got the top 10 ranking, based on that roster. And when they lost to Creighton in Maui, Creighton looked like a top 15 team. Well, now we know Creighton isn't that, so that's a worse loss than it appeared at the time. And one of my fundamental rules is that just because you lose a player, I don't wake up the next day and go, Trayvon Brazil's out, I'm dropping you 7 spots. I said, we're just going to keep playing, and we'll adjust when we need to adjust, but I'm not going to punish you until a loss materializes. But when that loss happens, and then you start looking back at the Arkansas resume, okay, Arkansas is ranked where they're ranked on preseason expectations, a loss to Creighton that looked better at the time than it does now, and the fact that they had played basically nobody for the most part in this stretch where they had lost Trayvon Brazil and Nick Smith Jr. But when you look at the resume now, best win over Oklahoma or San Diego State, and there's really nothing else of note there. A loss to an unranked Creighton team and a loss to a team that is at least currently unranked at LSU and ranked outside of the top 70 at KenPom. So there's not much there now, and they're operating for the time being without 2 of their top 5 scorers, and perhaps and at least without one of those guys for the rest of the season. We don't know when Nick Smith Jr. is coming back, or frankly, if he is coming back. I mean, I'm assuming he is, but we don't know that. So when you evaluate Arkansas based on the current resume and the fact that Trayvon Brazil and Nick Smith Jr. aren't playing, they are way closer to 20 than 10. And that is the rationalization for the pretty steep fall after a close competitive loss rather on the road.
I mean, I've been checked out for like the past 60 seconds here. We got my wife is texting me. So got the dishwasher in the kitchen. We can move on to Final Four 1 after this here. I'm sure you made great points, but yeah, she's texting me
points.
That so we got the dishwasher in the kitchen downstairs, and then next to our dishwasher, we've got like a very thin, narrow cabinet. And it's probably like I don't know, almost 2 feet long, but relatively narrow. Maybe not more than 6 or 7 inches wide.
Yeah, that's not where you put your plates. It's where you put your.
No, it's like where we put like our
your weed. That's where you put your weed.
No, it's where we put our cutting boards and all that kind of good stuff there. Or we've got like oversized coloring books for our kids. We just stick them in there. It's a perfect size for it. But she said, I'm hearing some aggressive scratching coming from the tiny cabinet next to the fridge and dishwasher. I'm freaked. You got to finish up this podcast. She's just gonna have to wait. I don't need this in my life right now. We don't need another animal situation. I swear. She's texting me this in the middle of the show, and she knows, like, unless it's an emergency, like, just let me do the pod here. The animals. What is it about me?
How is it I live in Mississippi, have no issue with animals whatsoever? You live in Connecticut, and you got dead things happening all the time.
I mean, I presume we got maybe a mouse situation. But that I don't think it should be able to get back. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not good. I'm not afraid of mice. They skeeve me out major, man. Like, just like you could tell me, a spider a tarantula could drop down from the ceiling and land on my head, and I wouldn't be fazed by it. I might be like, oh, but spiders don't. I'm fine with them. They don't bother me in the slightest. But there's something about rodents, man. I'm just uncomfortable by them. So anyway, let's get to the Final Four.
Well, I've got like every cop car in New York City is on fire. Like, woo, woo, a lot of sirens outside. I don't know what's happening. Actually, it's just normal New York City stuff, but I can hear the sirens coming through my ears, which I think suggests maybe other people can hear it as well. I think it's time to get to the Final Four and one.
Let's get these.
Update us on the records. How far am I ahead right now?
Update you on how far you are ahead, sir.
Yes, that's what I want to know.
We went over this. Norlander's at 18-12. You are at 15-15.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, but I'm just gonna keep saying in my head. I don't know if you guys know, we live in a country where you can just say things that aren't true and like get elected to office, and it doesn't matter to anybody. Nobody even blinks. So if you can do that at the highest levels of our government, I don't know why I can't just sit here and claim to be unbelievable at the Final Four and one, despite evidence to the contrary.
Because we're haters, Gary, and we don't want you to elevate to a position well beyond our standing right now. That's why.
I'm just gonna keep saying I'm leading Final Four and one. And when I lose, I'm gonna claim that the Final Four and one was rigged.
Okay.
And then and then I'm gonna incite an insurrection.
Okay. All right. Let's go. First game.
Game one, Saturday, noon Eastern. Number 2 UConn at number 22 Xavier inside the Pete Gillen Center. You can watch it on Fox. KenPom has it. UConn -6.
How about this game? Tasty. We've got a big time New Year's Eve Saturday situation with a good college soup slate. And then obviously the CFP semifinals. I'm going to make Parrish pick those games against the spread before we get out of here as well. This is the highest ranked team to visit Cintas since 2016-17. Xavier is 11-3, 3-0 in the Big East. Just got a win on Wednesday night at St. John's, 84-79. Did you happen to watch some of that game? It was all access. The mics were on throughout.
We had it on in the CBS in the CBS Broadcast Center. We have like 12 TVs in the green room. We call it the bullpen, where we sit in between going out to set. So we have everything on, but we typically only have audio on our game, unless our game gets really, really lopsided. So I had the visual of Sean Miller mic'd up, but I did not hear any of it, although I gather it was quite eventful.
It was first of all, Xavier was never like outright threatened. They won. St. John's kind of made it close. I almost wish Xavier had actually been trailing through some. So like, because Miller eventually in the second half, the filter went off, and then there was just, I'm not going to repeat what he said, and I can't mimic the tone, but he's like losing his voice. It's high pitched. He's like, you got to get effing back. You got to get effing back. He's like in the timeout. There were no TV timeouts. So at every media timeout, you just went inside the huddle, and by the way, the difference in like tone and vibe between Miller running, like they'd have like Miller like sweat dripping off his chin. He's just fired up. He's into it. He's barking out orders to his guys there, and they're up and they're in a good mood, and it's lively. And then they do the hard cut to St. John's, and it'd be like a Wes Anderson film. Like he was just sitting there, and no one was talking. I found it hilarious. I don't know. I guess that's just me. Xavier hosting UConn in a big time spot. Xavier, by the way, leads the country assists per game, 21.1, and is one of the better shooting teams in the country. Actually, is the best shooting team in the Big East at this point, and it's got 5 players averaging double figures. Give me that line one more time.
KenPom has it. UConn -6.
I cannot take UConn with that line. What? Give me Xavier straight up, man. UConn's been good.
What?
UConn has been good. Number 1 in my power rankings. Number 1 in your rankings. Right?
No. Purdue's number 1.
Okay. Well,
I'm a Boilermaker.
Let's not even start that. And so I'm
a Boilermaker.
Cintas
Boilermaker.
sold out. I'm sorry, Purdue fans. Jerry Palm's coming for you, man. Yeah, give me Xavier, my preseason pick to win the Big East, by the way. Give me Xavier to win one. This is going to be, I think, a fantastic game. They edge it out late. They have the shooting. They get it done. But I will say this. I'm going to hedge here. My pick is Xavier. Xavier straight up. My hedge is that UConn has been so good and is so well-rounded and has like every piece that if they waltz in there and win by 14, I'm just not going to be surprised whatsoever, but I'm not going to predict that. I'll go Xavier. Give me Xavier give me Xavier 81-78.
I was about tempted to change my pick because you went with Xavier, but I'm going to stick with, I just think, dude, obviously UConn's been beating everybody by more than 6, so they can't, the Huskies can do it, but like, that's a big ask. You know, a weekend game inside the Cintas Center, you know it's going to be packed, great home court environment. I won't be surprised if Xavier wins the game. I'm certainly going to take Xavier plus 6. I'll take UConn to win the game. I think UConn wins, but it's more competitive than what KenPom projects. Game 2, Saturday noon Eastern, Louisville at number 19, Kentucky, inside Billy Gillespie Arena. I know one thing.
Man,
I know.
Why are you going to do that after the segment we had on Kentucky? You're going to put that evil on this fan base?
I'll tell you one thing. Billy Gillespie never started number 1 at KenPom and then lost 4 of his first 12. I know that for a fact. You can look it up. Billy Gillespie never did that.
Fire that line at me one more time.
You can watch it on CBS. It's America's most watched network. It's a network of stars. KenPom has it UK minus 23.
We are picking this game because it is a CBS game. Let us be clear on that. It's the first of a triple header. You will be able to watch me on CBS Sports HQ. You going to be joining me? I'm on the first 2 games here.
I'm on the last game. I'm on the San Diego State game.
All right, so you got GP to wrap it up, and I'm on the first. I'm on the first couple of ones.
San Diego State fans requested that I handle their game, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm an Aztec.
I feel like that's an outright lie. All right, I will go 23. Louisville's got to be. They're 2-11. That might be the record against the spread. This is you're messed up for picking this game. That's just a lot of points. I'll do it. Louisville's been terrible, man. I will go Kentucky. What am I doing? I'm ready for this. I'm ready. That one's on me. I was wrong. I'm ready for that one. If this is right, I will go Kentucky to cover 23 points.
I would never bet on Louisville under any circumstances. Ever. I don't trust them. They're not trustable, even getting 23 points. So I will also take Kentucky, but we talked on the previous episode where I just sort of wondered in advance of Duke, North Carolina. Like, wouldn't it be hilarious if North Carolina went to Duke and won in Cameron in K's final home game? Similarly, and this will not happen. This is impossible. But wouldn't it be wild, like the wildest, if Kenny Payne went and won it at Rupp Arena this season? I was wrong.
That would be amazing if you were wrong about that.
Wouldn't that be something? Man.
Is that funnier than Carolina beating Duke at Cameron?
I hesitate to use the word funny because then people think I'm laughing at Kentucky's expense, which I'm not. Would I say it would be funny? I'm like, wouldn't that be wild? Like, boy, here's what I'm saying.
No, it would be funny.
It would be hilarious.
Are you kidding me? That's objectively hilarious if that happens. I don't care who wins either way, but if you tell me that a Louisville team that can't tie its own shoes wakes up and kicks the crap out of Kentucky and Rupp on Saturday, what?
On America's Most Watched Network? The network of stars? Dude, okay. I can see the point. It would be hilarious. I can't even imagine that happening, but my Peacock's got him. If my Peacock's got a better Kentucky team than this one, so it won't happen. But please, Kentucky fans, please, if that happens, send me every link to every Kentucky message board I need to know about, because I'll pour a drink and I'll sit there all night. My wife would be like, "What are we doing for New Year's Eve, baby? What are we doing for New Year's Eve? Yeah, come over here. We're gonna scroll cat's paws all night long." You see me on New Year's Eve. I got the Dick Clark special on TV. I'm just scrolling cat's paws and shooting bottle rockets. Can't wait. At midnight, I look over at my beautiful wife. I give her a little kiss and right back to cat's paws. Can't wait.
What's next?
Game 3. By the way, I'm drinking Pepsi Zero Sugar.
All right. How's that working out for you?
It's okay. Unless Pepsi's a sponsor, then it's great. But it's
No.
okay.
Yeah, name.
Okay, good. Here's the truth about it. There's a little pharmacy, the closest pharmacy to my hotel. For whatever reason, they don't have Coke Zero. So I have to go with Pepsi Zero Sugar. It's okay. Game 3, Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Number 22, New Mexico at Wyoming inside Larry Shyatt Auditorium. You can watch it on FS1. KenPom has it New Mexico -4.
Best start for the Lobos since
Oh, God, I heard this last night. We had the Lobos on our air.
67-68.
Yeah.
60. The only other time New Mexico started out this hot. This team is so hot right now. 13-0, 67-68, my man. How about this? Trivia time.
Okay, let's go.
Just a guess. How many teams do you think were in the New Mexico did make the 68 NCAA tournament? It was the first time they ever made the NCAA tournament. How many teams do you think the 1968 NCAA tournament was comprised of?
16.
Let's go one more guess. More.
8. Oh, more?
8.
I don't know. I wasn't around in 1968. Dick Clark was, though. I know that. Dick Clark was.
Rest in peace, Dick.
Rest in peace to Dick Clark. How awesome is that? You've been dead for however long, and they still just call the whole New Year's thing that they put it on you.
That's a legacy.
Hey, when I die, I want this to be called the Gary Parrish Eye on College Basketball Podcast, but only after I die.
Might be a bridge too far.
Which could be any day.
All right.
It could be any day. You know? It could.
Let's not. How many teams? One more guess. More than 16.
24.
23. Why 23? I'd actually love to know the answer.
It was I know the answer. It was in honor of Michael Jordan.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
Michael Jordan. How old was he in 68, my man?
Michael Jordan, same age as Tony Hinkle, 2.
Jordan was born February 17th, 1963. If my Chicago Bulls obsessed younger self remembers that correctly, he just Wikipedia that one. February 1763. Bada boom! Right on the money. Jordan would have been, that's right, 5 years old. 5-year-old Jordan. So it was named after him before he ever donned. I can only presume he had never worn a jersey with 23 on it at that age. Okay. Because when Jordan played JV, he didn't wear 23 until he got to Carolina, I don't believe. Okay. New Mexico, 23-3 that season, makes the tournament for the first time. Gets a bye into the Sweet 16. Its regional is at the Pit. Lost. Done. Lost to Santa Clara by 13 points. Then they used to play consolation games back then. Lost to New Mexico State at the Pit. Hopefully things work out a little bit better for Richard Pitino's team this season. They're off to a great start. The Mountain West, by the way, is firmly the 7th best league in the country. It is clearly better than the American this season. The Mountain West is having itself. Now, the Mountain West went 0-4 in the tournament last season. Got 4 teams in the dance. None of them got a win. Got to figure/hope that can change. Mexico's the cream of the crop there. But right now, San Diego State actually ranks best at KenPom, 26. Utah State still doing well, 40. Boise State, 60. UNLV is 77. Colorado State, even after this loss, still in the top 100. There isn't the only team that's outside the top 150 at KenPom is Air Force. So good on the Mountain West, and you'll see plenty of it on CBS Sports Network or CBS this weekend. I will say this is a road one. Wyoming's been actually pretty disappointing. Not pretty, extremely disappointing. Has 4 wins against D1 competition after making the tournament last season. I will go. This one's. You're a devil for this one, GP. You're a devil, Sun Devil.
Sun Devil.
You're a Sun Devil. Where is it? I need to play it again. Where is it? I need it. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I love this one.
I'm a Sun Devil. Look at me. I'm a Sun Devil.
You're a devil for picking this one because maybe we're gonna get something weird this weekend. I will take New Mexico to win and cover this spread.
Okay, the reason I use this game is because New Mexico is undefeated, but Wyoming is super interesting to me. You mentioned disappointing. They are undeniably that. This team was picked second in the preseason Mountain West Conference poll behind San Diego State, and they're 5-8 now. Just lost again last night. Obviously, a lot of this is because Graham Ike has not played all season. He had a lower leg injury in the preseason. He's expected back sometime in January. but he hasn't played yet. And that's the preseason Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. So that's the problem. Jeff Linder is missing him badly. And that's the biggest reason Wyoming is not meeting expectations. But have you paid attention? And I'm not asking this to try to be like, oh, you're not paid attention. Just like, because I hadn't until last night. Hunter Maldonado's not good.
That's a plot twist I did not see coming because I was convinced he was going to be one of the 40 or so best players in the country this season.
So I'm looking at it last night because we had Wyoming on our air, and so we got to talk about this stuff. Like, our producer Amy's like, hey, can you give us a first out comment on Wyoming? And I'm like, of course. And then I start like, I'm paying attention to Wyoming, and I'm like, whoa, Hunter Maldonado is not doing anything relative to what he has consistently done in college. By the way, first off, he's in his 6th year at Wyoming. 6 years at the same school.
28 years old. That's incredible.
6 years at the same school. Last season, just for people who have never heard of him, I'm assuming some people who are listening fall into that category. This is a dude who, for an NCAA tournament team last season, averaged 18.5 points, 6.3 assists, 5.7 rebounds per game. Statistically great. I assume Graham Ike's out. Ike took 14 shots a game last season. So that's 14 more shots somebody got to take. I'm like, well, I guess it should be Maldonado on some level. Everything's down. Hunter Maldonado took 13 shots a game last season. Graham Ike took 14. This season, Hunter Maldonado's taking 8.7 shots per game. They lose Graham Ike, and Maldonado's taking 4 fewer shots per game. Instead of averaging 18.5 points like last season, 12.3. 6.3 assists last season, now it's 3.6. 5.7 rebounds last season, now it's 4.1. Everything is down. Shots per game, like I said, also down. Field goal percentage, also down. It's just a weird deal. I was talking to Chris Walker in studio last night about it. He said, some of it's probably he's getting a lot more attention than he otherwise would get if Ike were on the court, and I'm sure that's a partial explanation. He also suffered a head injury against Boston College the week of Thanksgiving, and you can see the numbers start to trail off after that. But that's just one of the more off-the-radar, surprising early season stories that, it is easy to explain why Wyoming's not as good as it was supposed to be. They lost their best player. But their other great college player is not performing well at all. And, again, I don't think I realized it as thoroughly as I do now until last night. It's a weird situation. You don't see this too often.
That is quite interesting, and obviously a key to why they've been so bad. Is this game 3 or game 4?
This is game 3. Did we pick it yet?
I picked it, so you don't have a choice.
I'm taking New Mexico -4. Oh no, what did you do?
I picked New Mexico, so you have to take Wyoming.
Oh yeah, I have to go opposite you game 3 every week. So yeah, I'm Wyoming +4, but let the record show I don't feel good about it at all.
Let the record show you're picking Wyoming.
At all. I didn't mean to do that. I don't want to do that. It's a little bit of a trap. Game 4, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Number 24, West Virginia at Kansas State inside Brent Stover Coliseum. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. KenPom has it West Virginia -1.
I appreciate you keeping me on my toes here because just so people realize, like going into every normally Friday preview episode, we got a special Thursday night one. And if you woke up to the pod in your feed, you're like, what? You're welcome. Give you a little extra time there heading into New Year's weekend. We're happy to oblige you. I try and predict what 4 games you're going to pick. And oftentimes I've never been more wrong than this one. I think I had one at UConn. I thought you'd do Kentucky, Louisville, CBS game, and UConn Xavier. There's other 2, but explain to me why this is of the 4 you picked here.
Because the head coach of Kansas State is Jerome Tang. That's a Scott Drew disciple. You know how I feel about that.
This is the reason.
That's the main reason. West Virginia's 10-2. Got wins over UAB, Florida, losses to Purdue, Xavier. They are in the top 25-1. Kansas State 11-1. Beat the LSU team that beat Arkansas. Also got wins over Nevada, Nebraska, lone loss to Butler. This is perhaps, arguably, the most compelling Big 12 game of the opening weekend, arguably. In part because let's see what Kansas State is. Like they've got a nice record, but there's not a lot of big quality stuff there yet. but they've got a nice record. They should have an incredible home court advantage this weekend, and they're playing a ranked team. And, listen, the Big 12, right now, this is true. All 10 teams in the Big 12 can, like every coach in the Big 12, from Bill Self to Jerome Tang, and every can look his team in the eyes and say, guys, calendar's flipping to January, and we got a realistic chance to make the NCAA tournament. We can do this. Yep. Every team is set up to do it. Every team won't do it because somebody's just going to get beat up in this thing. Now, I don't know who it is, but somebody's just going to get beat up in this thing and win like 5 games, and that's going to be that. But right now, all 10 Big 12 teams are in the top 55 of the net and the top 55 at KenPom. 7 of the 10 have already won at least 10 games. Like I said, every team's got a legitimate shot at the NCAA tournament. And if you're Kansas State and you beat West Virginia this weekend, you've got a possible claim to a spot in the AP poll on Monday.
It's an intriguing game, and I had it on my list of other ones to know about there. And I like you mixing it up like this. Keontae Johnson's been awesome for Kansas State. This is a wonderful spot at home. I think you said it was West Virginia -1 in Octagon Zoom. Did I say that right?
Yep. Brent Stover Arena, rather. Brent Stover Coliseum.
This is like a genuinely tough game to call. I will go. Give me hashtag EMA. Every man a Wildcat. Give me the fighting Tangs. Yeah, gets tangy on Saturday. Yeah, K-State straight up. Let's go.
Well, I can't pick against Jerome Tang. The only reason I bring the game up is because of Jerome Tang. I'm not going to sit here.
I'm not making you pick against Jerome Tang.
I know, but like it's first. We
got plenty more games left this season. Don't get all so concerned about that. Come on over. Let's go.
It took so long for Jerome Tang to get the opportunity, like this opportunity, to be a head coach in the Big 12. And then I'm just going to pick against him in his Big 12 opener? You think I'm heartless? I can't do that. I'm not heartless. So I got to go with you. I take Kansas State at home. I don't like going with you, but I'd rather go with you than go against Jerome Tang. So I'm stuck.
I'll give you another reason why. Because on December 17th, out there at the T-Mobile Center, K-State beat Nebraska 71-56. And as we talk and record this podcast, oh my goodness, Nebraska is destroying Iowa. It's 58-36.
Dude's the
Where is this game?
Pinnacle Bank, dog.
Like their 4th home win in the past 5 seasons.
Pinnacle Bank. You ain't going in there. Fred McCaffrey thinks he can just go to Pinnacle Bank.
And Murray's playing. He's playing. Just missed a fall-away jumper from the baseline. Rebound Nebraska. 10 minutes to go. 22-point lead. Good on you. That's another fan base. Just give us some reason to have some optimism. We hear you, Husker fans. Why don't we at least acknowledge that you are running away with it against the Hawkeyes there. The interesting plot twist there. All right, let's pick my game first, and then I'll give you a few more things to know about for the weekend. Some interesting ones. I was actually tempted. I was tempted to go Carolina Pitt Friday noon tip, but I'm going to go Saturday. We'll stick with the Saturday stuff here. So my game, it's 2 Eastern, Saturday, Fox on Ike Diagu Court.
Okay.
Arizona against Arizona State. Arizona, by the way, it's going to be an awesome uniform game. Arizona is bringing back its 96-97 title season unis, and they are going all Navy, cats on the side, just an elite uniform. Why this is not Arizona? Just who makes these decisions? Do you not understand that it would be universally applauded if someone just walked in, if it's the AD, whomever, just saying, you know what, we're going back to this. This is what we're wearing indefinitely for the next 50 years. No one's going to complain. Just go back to these uniforms permanently. Zona's going to look good. 12-1. League, not league opener. They've already played 2 Pac-12 games against an Arizona State team that's 11-2. We last saw on CBS Sports Network get weirdly drilled and sent into another dimension by the San Francisco Dons, a 97-60 defeat there. This one's a little interesting there, but why not? KenPom as the line. Arizona on the road in Tempe, -4. Who you got?
It's a tough one. Boy, Ike Diago, as a young beat writer, I watched that dude destroy Memphis in the second half of an NCAA tournament game one time. Woo!
tremendously fun college player. I loved Ike in college.
Go look that up. I can't remember what he did. I just remember going, "Ooh, ooh." Ike Diago was something, boy. I'm gonna take Arizona. I'm gonna lay the points. I believe in Tommy Lloyd. I believe Tommy Lloyd can go on the road and win that game.
I don't enjoy agreeing with you, but I made my pick before this, and I have to take Arizona. Arizona, they're in that class with me with Purdue, Houston, UConn, teams that I think that are already knocking on the door of having the great label, and I think they can get there. Arizona is that, and Lloyd is 45-5, trying to go to 46-5. He made my when I did my year in review earlier this week. His overall year was one of the bigger stories. And yeah, Zona's just they're an awesome watch, and they will look great in those unis. Here's what else you need to know about the weekend. So Friday, there's actually two worth watching. If you're home, ACC Network. You've got UNC at Pitt. That's a noon tip ACC Network. UNC at Pitt. Let's just keep an eye on it, GP. Let's see what might be in store there. Pitt 9-4. 2-0 in the league. They won at NC State and then they won at Syracuse. So it's 2-0 with 2 road wins. Forget the competition. Like they've done well, and now they got 3 straight games at home. UNC, then Virginia, and then Clemson. Not saying this team is going to the tournament. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe, I don't know. Let's see what Carolina can do in that spot. And then also on Friday, Miami at Notre Dame. It's getting late early for the Fighting Irish, who I had 25th in the preseason there. Miami's a 1-loss team, and Isaiah Wong's been an All-American guard. This is 2 Eastern tip, Friday, ACC Network. Those are the 2 most intriguing games to me on a relatively light schedule. But Notre Dame, like that's basically a mandatory win if you want to even try and develop an NCAA tournament resume. And then on Saturday, you mentioned the Big 10 stuff. I mean, the Big 12 stuff. Every game is worth watching. This is a function of every team being good. Everyone is between 5 and 55 right now in KenPom. I believe K-State's at the bottom of that. But K-State, again, just 1 loss. Texas Tech at TCU, noon Eastern, ESPNU. Oklahoma State is at Kansas. That's a CBS game on Saturday. Again, you can see me on HQ if you're watching on a second screen there. I'll be popping in with some commentary and analysis there. Oklahoma State at Kansas, 2 Eastern CBS. Also at 2 Eastern, Texas at Oklahoma. Texas has actually looked pretty good. Marcus Carr went for 41 earlier this week, and according to basketball researcher Jared Burson, the first player ever to get 40+ at 2 power conference programs. He did it at Minnesota. Now he's done it at Texas. They're going to play at Oklahoma, and then another 2 Eastern game, Baylor at Iowa State. That might be a race to 60, and even we'll see about that, but that's also another rugged one. And then another one in that 2 Eastern window on Saturday, Marquette at Villanova. Nova gave UConn a good push. I came away impressed with how Villanova looked in defeat. It was actually the only team so far to actually keep UConn within a single-digit margin once the final buzzer sounded. Marquette continues to look pretty good. Interesting one there. Villanova's got so much work to do if it even wants to build something of an at-large resume, but this is like you got to win it. You're at home. Marquette's coming in. You have to win this game. So we'll see there. Cam Whitmore continues to, he's like ascending, like top 3 freshman in the country in a week's time if this keeps up. And then 2 more on Saturday. San Diego State at UNLV, 4 Eastern, CBS. Keep an eye on GP on CBS Sports HQ coverage there. UNLV just took a loss to San Jose State. Shouts to Tim Miles. He's doing well there. Again, Mountain West. There's a lot to be intrigued in. And then how about this? Your mid-major under the radar special. St. Mary's is 10-4. It ranks top 20 in KenPom right now. It's going to go on the road and play Santa Clara on Saturday. Santa Clara, I'm just telling you right now, it's the team to watch out for that could be the role of a San Francisco, although San Francisco is still really good. Santa Clara is 12-3, has defeated DePaul, Iona, Wyoming, though who hasn't yet. Got a win over Boise State. Got to 12-3 in non-conference play, and it just lost a lottery pick. It just lost Jalen Williams there. This is actually a pretty intriguing mid-major game, so I wanted to give it some love there. Again, St. Mary's at Santa Clara. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern tip. I think that's an online stream only. And then Sunday, 2-0, Maryland at Michigan State, 4:30 Eastern, FS1. Iowa at Penn State. See if Iowa can gather itself. It's still down 20. It didn't walk into Pinnacle. Didn't walk in. 5:30 Eastern on Sunday. Huge sports weekend. Before we get out of here, let's go ahead and pick the CFP semifinals, man. All right. This is Saturday, New Year's Eve. I'm sure there are some TV bowl nonsense reasons. Why college football? We talked about this like 4 years ago. You hold your damn semifinals on New Year's Eve. Like college football cannot get out of its own way. Why would you? Whatever. It's what it is. Here are the lines.
Well, the original explanation was they said we're going to change people's New Year's Eve habits.
Yeah.
And then people were like, no, you're not. No, you're not going to do that. And like, this is going to be difficult for me because
you're going to be on cat's paws. You're going to be occupied.
be on cat's paws. I'm going to be cat's paws all night long. I ain't got time to watch football. I'm be on cat's paws all night long. The only time I'm going to take a break from cat's paws is at midnight. I'm going to go like this. I'll kiss my wife, and then I'm going to go right back to cat's paws.
Yeah. That's right. But, like the game will still it'll get a great rating. But, like, the second one's Georgia at Ohio State. Starts at 8 Eastern. College football games take 4 hours. Like, you could have a goal-to-go situation in one possession. Oh, it's Georgia, so we'll see. All right, let's pick the games. 4 Eastern, Saturday. Michigan, -7.5 against the Horned Frogs. TCU. Michigan, -7.5. Who you got?
I think Michigan wins, but TCU covers.
TCU has been, and listen, if you're going to come anywhere for college football analysis, the Eye on College Basketball podcast is where you want to be.
That's right.
But if you need if this isn't really satiating your needs, go find the Cover 3 podcast with our guy Tom Fornelli. I haven't heard a lot from him lately, by the way. Have you? Haven't heard from Fornelli all that much.
Yeah, he got real quiet. Fornelli got pretty quiet. Fornelli got pretty quiet. That's the amazing thing about college basketball fans. They get real loud and then they get real quiet.
Chip Patterson, shouts to you, the whole crew at Cover 3. In all sincerity, if you want a little more college football in your life, wonderful podcast, and congrats, fellas, to an incredible 2022 for you guys. TCU has been the team that just continues to win close and got here through guts and guile. I will go Michigan. You've got the Frogs to cover. I will go Michigan to win and cover this. I'm hoping one of these two, and frankly, I'm hoping the one that starts earlier is the closer game. But I will go Michigan to cover. Now, how about this? Now, Ohio State's the better opponent, but I actually thought, before I looked up the line, Georgia would be favored by more. So Georgia 6.5, giving 6.5. This is an 8 Eastern tip on Saturday. All your basketball stuff is mostly going to be out of the way by the time this thing gets going. -6.5 versus the Buckeyes. What are you thinking?
I think Ohio State wins, but I think Georgia wins, but Ohio State covers. I'm sorry. I missed.
Oh, you're about to get spicy on me right there, man. I don't. I'm genuinely like, is anyone in media and college football that covers it like on a national bit? Like, is anyone taking Ohio State straight up money line? I don't know. It seems like this is not a thing that's out there.
Yeah, like Ohio State's super talented. They just haven't really looked like a great football team for parts of the season, but. I think the prevailing thought among college football people is Georgia's the best team in the country, but if anybody could get them, it's probably Ohio State.
I am going to abide by the near decade-long approach with Alabama and say I'm not picking against Georgia. It has just been so overwhelmingly dominant that, like, you can just see Georgia winning this game by like 24 points and making it a laugher by the third quarter. At least I can. Your premier college football playoff analyst out there. So we split them both. Can we fold both of these picks, even though they won't be in the graphic? Can we fold these two picks into our season-long Final 4-1 record since we both disagree?
You know what? We just might fold these in just because it'll give GP another chance to get a little bit closer to over 500.
I say we do it. I'm going to vote in favor of doing that. Are we going to get out of here? We got a lot of stuff going on right now.
I got Nebraska beating Iowa again by 20 points still. What else we got going
on? My man Mike Norvell's coaching in a bowl game on television right now at Florida State.
What's the score?
Love Mike Norvell.
Can we get a score update on that game for everyone listening to this podcast Friday evening?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's terrific. Florida State is up 32-25 in this moment.
All right.
Tyler Harris is back inside FedEx Forum playing against the Tigers. So that's interesting.
Okay, there we go.
The Grizzlies are in Toronto, beating up on a Fred Van Vleetless
Van Vleetless.
Raptors tee.
Yeah.
Plus, I got to pack. I'm going home tomorrow.
Can we? All right, let's get out of here. But before we do this, let's not do this offline. Let's decide right now. Are we?
I love how you
Sunday
just totally. I love how you just totally decided your wife being terrified is not that important.
I got a text update. We're good.
Okay.
She said she banged on the little cabinet door. Hasn't heard a sound since.
Okay.
We got the mouse stuff around the house. We haven't really seen a mouse in the house in a while, but no, she's good. Trust me. If she wasn't, she actually probably made her first podcast appearance by now. She crawled up in the office, been tugging on my shirt. You got to get this done. All right. So Sunday night is New Year's Day, but I plan on being home. Should people be expecting us a Sunday as usual pod? Is that in the plans here?
Yeah, I'm flying again on Monday. we got to knock this thing out on Sunday night. Yeah, I'm going home. And then I'm coming right back here on Monday.
Sounds like you're on your way to a second Delta plaque, my man.
Oh, they love me at Delta. I love them back. It is wild when you get to the point where the people in the Delta Sky Club at LaGuardia and in Memphis, like I know them all. I know them. I see them more regularly than I see my actual friends. They are my friends. Like if I had to invite my friends over for a party, I would just invite people who work at the Sky Club in LaGuardia and the Sky Club in Memphis. In fact, LaGuardia, like I don't know if you've been in LaGuardia since they redid a lot of it.
I actually can barely believe what I'm seeing around me when I go to LaGuardia. I've been like twice. Right. Yeah.
So now I'm typically in a different Sky Club, like the newer Sky Club in the new terminal. But a few weeks back, I went back to I ended up in the older Sky Club, and this nice woman who I used to see every week, and I'd sit there and I'd sit at the bar and talk to her, and you know she'd give me drinks and we just have a good time till it was time to go. And I hadn't seen her in like no. She's just like a nice older woman. Like there's no story to it except that it was, hey, Mr. Parrish. It was that type of thing when you walk in, and I hadn't seen her in a year. I swear to God. So I walk in there and she's just standing there. And I had this, I felt emotional almost. I was like, it's good to see you. How have you been? I was like really happy to see her. That's how often I used to see her. I was really happy to see her.
All righty then.
I'll be back there tomorrow morning. Anybody want to have a drink tomorrow morning? Just come meet me at the Sky Club. LaGuardia.
Wife doesn't listen to the pod, right?
Yeah, sometimes, sure.
All right. Okay.
She knows I'm not doing anything inappropriate with the Delta Sky Club woman. Just my friend.
This is a real sign of GP when his wife approaches him after this episode.
So should
Let's go.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Over at Apple, leave a nice review, 5 stars, type some words. There's more of us than there are of them. More of us than there are of them. I bet you, respectfully, I bet you my friend at the Sky Club, I bet she's one of us. I'd bet on that. We'll talk to you again Sunday night. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, 22.